Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Detonation. We have Kate. How do I say your last name? Luchvik?
Many people like saying it as love check. So I guess it sounds a bit more westernized, more familiar. It's a very Ukrainian last name, Levchuk.
Lovechuk. Yeah, it's a beautiful name. I absolutely, yeah, I'm an Aussie, right? And we don't have a very good way of pronouncing anything in the world. Our English is terrible, so it's hard to say. But I have Kate Lovechuk here. She's from the Ukraine. She's beautiful. She's a great woman. She's really smart. She's engaging. And the thing I like the best about you is you are a great communicator. You're a great communicator. Your articles are very good. Your speaking is proficient and to the point. And no, you're a great communicator. You write for Forbes.
I guess we can check it out right now.
Yeah, we can. You write for Forbes, and so that's awesome. You describe yourself as a transhumanist. I believe humans can move beyond the current of physical and mental limitations. I see technology as a major way to improve the world and empower humanity. Believing in a divine power of a human being, nonetheless, I acknowledge we might have stepped too far in relation to other forms of life. So that's how you describe yourself. Welcome to Detonation, Kate Lovechuk. Just tell the audience who you are. You've got a whole list of things going on over there in terms of speaking and all that.
That's for sure. Have lots of engagements, a daytime job as well, waiting for me, and lots of futuristic and transhumanist involvements. So I got into the whole field about 3 years ago, when I started working in a technology company, and I just understood the whole thing in the world is not about politics or struggle for power, but it's about data and the technology progress. So I started writing a lot about this, getting into sci-fi, and eventually I discovered many fields like AI, which led me very organically into transhumanism. I would say why? Because the more you research about current technologies and the more you hear about all this focus on VR, IoT, artificial intelligence, robotics, anything and everything, the more you understand that the focus is completely off the main player in the field, which is actually ourselves. And that's where transhumanism is coming into play as the most important philosophy in 21st century.
Absolutely. So who is your favorite science fiction author? Like, because I know when you were a child, you got into sci-fi. Who is it? Who did you pick out of the long list?
Yeah, the list is really unending, and hopefully I can join this one at some point. But I started reading like big books, which were not some kind of children's poems, at about 11, 12. And the first author I read was Ray Bradbury, who is not very well known for some reasons, even with futurists I'm talking about. He's absolutely amazing, and he is the one who wrote 451 Fahrenheit about the dystopian society of the future. He opened the eyes for us for the space exploration, like Martian Chronicles. So he's definitely on the same shelf as Arthur Clarke, Olaf Stapledon, and lots of these amazing guys like Neil Stephenson.
Yeah. I really like Isaac Asimov, to be honest. It's a bit generic, I know, but I really enjoy that guy's work. I just think it's so eye-opening, and he spans out for so much time. So you got into transhumanism. We know your favorite science fiction author. By the way, just to tell the audience, the big clock over here is to do with the Transhumanist primary on Detonation. We've been doing all the Transhumanist primary stuff. So we've been running through the candidates. You've seen them all: Mr. Holsopple, Ben Zion, and Rachel Haywire, and people are voting. There's a lot of people out there voting, and that's when the primary shuts down on August 10th.
Do I still have a time to get into the voting ballot?
You have one week, 3 days, 23 hours, 55 minutes, 41 seconds.
So I can hire Cambridge Analytica, and I might as well get in, right?
Yeah, do it. I'm friends with everybody at Cambridge Analytica, so we'll just do all that, for no.
No, one person, but yeah, we'll make it.
No, don't tell them. They'll say I'm a Russian spy, as they always do. So we know you got into tech. Tell me, so technology is something that's very old. I mean, if you go right back to the beginning of history, some ape somewhere, he sharpened some stone or something, and we've been advancing ever since, this cascading amount of technology. We get up to the information age, we get to electricity, and then we plow through to the information age, Turing building the computer. That leads to a thing called AI. People still don't really understand what AI is, but they've got AI everywhere. You said so yourself. It's on every app you use on your phone. We're pretty much cyborgs now. It's on your Tinder, on your Uber, you said that during your speeches. So there's a lot of good things that have come out of AI. Do people have a negative perception of AI? And if they do, can you flip that on its head?
That's a great tech-related as well as futurist-related question. So, as many authors rightfully noted, the main differentiation between humanity as a species and all other animals is mainly our curiosity. So, agricultural revolution and language allowed us to become the masters of the planet. And we kept advancing different things we found around ourselves and discovering something new. And eventually it led us to industrial revolution and then information age. So currently things are not very different. AI is just another new technology which can become absolutely groundbreaking if we actually crackle this thing and come to AGI, general artificial intelligence, which would not need the motivation and structure from humans. However, as with any tool, starting with what monkeys were using and what the first humans, it all depends in which hands it ends up. So, to be fair, I don't think it will be that important when it comes to AGI, as it will think independently of its creators. However, at the moment, we're still very much in the time of narrow artificial intelligence. That's why the usage by such big players that monopolize the markets and using our psychometrics for different social experiments is kind of concerning. And I guess all of you guys who are into tech have seen the great hack that just came out recently, which I can highly recommend. Just for your information about AI in everyday life, in every app, and in your private life and private thoughts, which Facebook knows before they even arise in your head.
Yeah, that is creepy. And there's memes going around now of people who are creeped out by it because they don't really understand how that works. But yeah, it's coming. You mentioned social experiments. You did a fantastic panel where you interviewed a whole host of people who did a Lexus ad with a car. Now, I know what happened, but tell everybody what that is all about, because this ad, obviously, it didn't do very well here in Australia. People don't really know about it. But run through with people. Well, I looked on the internet, I charted the stuff, and I saw the distribution.
You made your research really well.
Tell people about the panel, and tell people about the car ad and what the AI did and with those people. You were there, you were on the ground, you know all about it.
Yeah, so I was very excited when I was invited to moderate the session by Lexus, and it was positioned as AI and humanity, cooperation versus competition. So it was about AI in creativity. And to be fair, we're very used to AI being applied in creative industries, like creating the trailers, different ads, like maybe you guys seen Olive Garden ad about the infinite stick and all this super funny stuff that the bot just made from hundreds of ads. But there wasn't any serious attempt at actually making a proper advertising with AI, scripting the whole plot. So it was a bit of an experiment, as you were saying. And there was an Oscar-winning director who directed the movie Whitney. There was all board of Lexus and all people involved in this commercial. So it's like Lexus is a huge brand. They're very invested in the ROI on their ads. And they felt very uncomfortable with the script that came out because it portrayed the car as being vulnerable and like undergoing all these tests and suffering. So I saw it as a little bit of AI actually will for life. It was very strange. Usually car makers are portraying cars as strong, fast, enduring, and here it was a completely reverse. However, it was so impactful, written completely by a machine. So yeah, all the panel was a bit shocked, and most people didn't really understand this ad too much, but it made a very big impact on me, and it really showed the creative potential of technology we do not fully understand yet.
I was so emotionally moved because I saw the ad and I was like, wow, this is an ad about a car trying to survive. This is about, you know, it's formed an emotional bond with its creator, the guy doing the final check. He's formed an emotional bond with him because for some reason it was on national news because it's like as if they knew that this car was a living being and yet they were still happy as humans to run this living being creature and destroy it for a test for the safety of humans. And when it saved itself, when it beat itself, it was very emotionally stirring because something within human spirit is longing for survival. And once people understood that this car was a sort of sentient-ish sort of living, breathing sort of being, they form that emotional attachment. You form that attachment and you say, actually, you know what? Screw the evil people at the head of the company. Yeah, screw those guys. They were trying to kill some sort of living sentient being. I'm glad for the car. I'm happy for the car.
Exactly, and still it's very important to see more and more of these feelings and differentiations coming in humanity. Like if I guess many people have seen the movie Her, and more people are putting increased attachment with Alexa or any kinds of personal assistants, and it's only going to get much more intense. And an interesting thing is that Ray Bradbury, one of my greatest influencers, predicted this about 20, 30 years ago in one of his very short essays, the seeming electric body, where he described the family which has too much work and they outsourced children to a robotic nanny. And they, of course, don't care about her at all. And the time came when they need to upgrade the nanny and they just find a new robot. But for children, it's a completely different story because they perceive the nanny as a best friend. So for them, it's a huge drama. And we're really coming to the time when there will be much less differentiation between biologically created things and machines, because it's all about the meaning we give to them.
A Japanese man has paved the way by marrying one of those avatar hologram creatures. You know, those avatar things they have in Japan. He married one. Just, I don't think he really means it, but he did it to make a point in terms of that this is what's happening. Computers and people are merging into one sort of entity of global consciousness, which is something I want to talk to you about in one of your writings as well. We will get to that, but. Why and what can be done about immortality versus longevity? So immortality, is it moral, you know, and longevity, is it a moral thing? There's a lot of people who are very negative. They say there's overpopulation, there's all these moral dilemmas, the pollution, the environment, blah, blah, blah. So we know all that. Is it kind of moral? What can be done about it? And I mean, you know, on and on.
Yeah, we're getting deep into philosophy in here. And I think it's a very important point to tackle, especially in regards to transhumanism as a philosophy, which more and more people are embracing. So someone who is saying this is immoral, the arguments they're putting are quite obvious. So there is, first of all, the no reason to really live forever. You can just live a bit longer. So longevity is totally fine. Health optimization is fine. Transhumanism is weird. But then, you know, it's a little bit like it's great to have an orgasm, but a simulated one is also fine. Or I really
The Minority Report, they do that all the time in the Minority Report. Sorry, continue.
Did they?
Okay. Yeah. There's a whole room of simulated experiences where they go in. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sure they can do that. Or, you know, if you want a nice coffee and you've been really craving this Italian espresso, and then you see Starbucks down the road, it's like, okay, whatever, doesn't matter. So if you're going after one thing, it's really just the continuation. So longevity is just one part under the umbrella of transhumanism. This is first argument. Secondly, talking about the morality of the whole thing. People who are polluting the planet using plastic and have absolutely no consideration for future generations are this exactly because they know we're just going to be here for a little bit, so we might as well get maximum out of our short time on this earth. So the real problem comes between the difference in time terms, the planet time scale and the individual human being time scale. Of course, we can't care about the whole planet that much if we have like up to 70, 80 years. And this is very much proven by the reports and the situation from 80s in 20th century, when every major decision maker was aware of the extent and impact of climate change, and no one really took any reasonable action. Why? Because people in power then knew they would die relatively soon. They might as well just reap the benefits now.
If you ever let me publish on Kate Goes Tech an article, I wanna you've just given me the title, and I'm going to call it intergenerational selfishness, because that's what it is. It's one generation being selfish, and they sort of pass that on to the next one, and they're all short-term, and they all short-term problems, and it all seems to like bumble out in a way, because the Earth is so large, and there's been so many resources on the planet to exploit that they've been doing it for a long time now. I mean, at least 10,000 years they've got away with this process, but that's running out. They're running out of resources everywhere we look. We're running out of rare earth minerals. We're running out of easy energy, cheap energy. We're running out of ideas. We're running out. Everything's running out. Running out of timber and old forests. Cheap and easy transport. Everything's running out. So, So if I ever get published on that website, intergenerational selfishness. That's what I'm gonna. That's what you just sparked that in my brain.
Okay. Still, I think I have a good place for you in my other transhumanist website, Transpire.
We're gonna ask about that. Oh, talk about that. Transpire. It's really good. I mean, I've seen the Facebook. I haven't looked at the other stuff, but Transpire.
So when I was writing articles for Forbes, I never write something that is like there is this new gadget or there is this new trend and just stating the fact, because like everyone else does exactly the same thing. I write an article or talk about something only if I'm really interested about this and if there is a real impact on humanity as a whole. So it's more of a philosophy of tech. So there was one topic I was really interested in researching, and it crystallized in the article, which is called "Our Mortality is Killing the Planet," which is what we were talking about a few minutes ago, about 80s and the current change in mentality with millennials and Gen Z. And this article and all the research I've put into it made me realize that transhumanism is really the answer and the way forward. However, at the moment, it's still very much into philosophy and scientific stage, and it really needs to be delivered to the to people, to general public, non-scientists. So I funded. So yeah, I decided why not to make a website, a platform, which would be like Wired, but focus only on transhumanist topics. So currently I have different prominent leaders from this area, like Zoltan, Gennady, Natasha and Max Moore, and many others who are publishing there on par with people who are simply interested in the subject and have their contribution. So this is the blog part, but the main impact I'm looking to get from this project is moving from theory into practice, which will happen with the submitted transhumanist projects. They will be voted by the members, by the users of Transpire, and the best ones will get coupling with the mentors, and upon the successful acceleration campaign, they will be introduced to venture capitalists who are interested in biotech, nanotech, and human improvement topics. So there is a whole thing around it, and I'm very excited about transhumanism and the whole community that is coming much larger. And I think it would be a great hub to connect all interested people in an open and safe environment to express their opinions and arguments.
Yeah, that sounds really good. I mean, I'm gonna watch that space really closely, because that project sounds really good. Detonation here is facilitating some of that goal in terms of trying to bring together people to communicate through the Detonation platform, and it teaches some of these ideas. I don't care whether people like it or not, or they agree or not. What happens is people start to think about the ideas, and if they're Christian or conservative or Muslim or whatever they are, they can disagree or agree all they want. But the thing is, they start to think about these issues, and that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to facilitate that debate, whether or not it's in the public, whether or not it's in people's heads. It facilitates a debate, and that's what I'm really excited to do as my tiny, minuscule contribution.
Exactly. Still, the most important thing in this world is, I guess, critical thinking. Is that's also the problem that happened with so many election campaigns and people blindly following their Insta feed and the news and advertisements being fed to them. Okay, that all looks great and shiny, but is it like this 100% of the time, or is it just one picture that doesn't reflect anything and that's coming behind it? So yeah, I guess you are a great connector.
So something that people argue about, and they say this whole transhumanism thing, longevity, all this, it's for the elites, it's for the rich, it's for the billionaires, the Peter Thiels, the Mark Zuckerbergs, the infinitely wealthy, and the little people are never going to get anything. So what's the point? Like, it's an elitist. It has an elitist vibe. Is that true?
That's very true in some respect, because billionaires, people with a good network and influence, might be the first to even develop the medicine for any of that, and to be accepted and given this first chance. Of course, there is all this talk about accelerated returns and this magic cure coming slowly to the masses, so everything becomes democratized. But I guess my main argument for this not being stuck only with elites is a bit different. Imagine you're going through cryonics institute and you decide to freeze yourself. Currently, it's legal only after your death. Okay, you've done that, and a cure for your disease came out in like 100 or 300 years' time. Great, they can unfreeze you. You can now live and be bubbly and happy and all together. But who will make a call on unfreezing you? Those will be people living at that time. And if they don't feel like bringing you back to life, it doesn't really matter how much billions you had back then. So all that really matters is how good a person you are and what contribution you're willing to make this place better, to make the planet better, or maybe other planets for this matter. So it's all very controversial, and there is high chance that elites will be able to get to this cure first, but it's absolutely not guaranteed.
Two things I want to say on this point. Firstly, perpetual law is something where you build a constitution which lies down a framework for the future. So a constitution, right? So it's like a constitution is how you want a country to be governed, and it all works around those core values and those core sets of rules, and it perpetuates forward. Are you saying, question one, are you saying that in order to make your cryonics unfreezing relevant, if you really think it's moral for yourself, it's going to have to change at a constitutional level? That's question one. Go with that. I know it was just a thought, but play with that.
Constitutional level.
So that the people in the future can't not unfreeze you, right? Because you're saying maybe they don't feel like it because they have different moral and ethical considerations at that time, but you really want to be. You think it's right. You paid for this.
Yeah, that's all very true. So if we're talking not about general transhumanism, which ideally would come through biohacking, for me at least, but cryonics, yes, you can definitely bring changes to the constitution, as well as being able to freeze yourself in the later stages of life when there is still consciousness inside, however you can quantify it. But yeah, I don't think there is really much you can do because constitutions come and go, ruling parties come and go, and they can rewrite constitution over and over. In Stalin's Russia, people were deleted from the pictures forever. So the history is written by the winners, and no matter how we change constitution today, it will be the future generations that make a call. So it's much better to actually make a real difference and think twice about the consequences of our action, especially climate change related, before we even talk about any forever living. You know?
Yeah, we have to get over these sort of medium-term problems. And question two, I asked you about elites. Now, that question is built with the assumption that that the common people aren't already transhuman, aren't already evolving, and don't already benefit from the huge amounts of advancements in medical technology and other technology, heart transplants and all that has already happened. They just say, well, we have socialized healthcare in the West or in Australia or some parts of the United States, and they say, well, we don't get what the elite gets, and sometimes they do because of the fair game rule. And so is that a rigged question? I ask, is that a rigged question where it's a middle class America question? They're complaining about some billionaires not recognizing the amount of transformation that's happened on their own field.
Yes, Steele, I think that's a good one. The grass is always greener on the other side. And in these terms, there is always a class difference and seeing someone else having something. So just an interesting example of this, I was recently talking with a friend about the US, and luckily the suicide rate decreased dramatically among blacks and Hispanics. However, it increased almost twice during the last decade among white males. And the main reason for this is being perceived inequality, because they think they're actually worse off because some other people are now better off, and they can see it through social media, through reports. So that's exactly the same situation with common public thinking we are not getting something Peter Thiel might be getting. But we are so far from any real breakthrough solution for aging that at the moment it's just pure talk. However, coming back to this question and addressing the issue of real cure and potential medicine for mortality and aging, which most likely will come from changing the concentration of molecules in our genes, potentially through CRISPR. In this case, there will be a huge difference. It's either dying at 80 or living for as much as you want, removing wear and tear. Here, there will be a difference, and that's when regulation actually can come into place. So an example here, we keep talking about general artificial intelligence. There are several institutions set up by Max Tegmark, Nick Bostrom, Future of Life, and many institutions. To some of them, Elon Musk donated about $10 million, because people know that this will be very important when these general AI will come into being, and we need to set some boundaries and regulations today. What is the difference, I'm wondering, between non-existing general AI and still non-existing cure for aging, which might come even before AGI? Why are we not thinking about creating an institution or some regulating body that will actually decide and put in the frameworks of how it can all function and who actually gets to have an access to this technology? I think this is the most important question we ought to be asking ourselves right now.
Yeah, it's interesting because you know, the SENS Foundation, Aubrey de Grey, and all that, they're just doing the science. I mean, they're not very well funded, but they're just doing the science side. They're not ethicists.
Yeah.
They're not
Which is
moral
great.
philosophers and all
Yeah,
that.
we
But
definitely need them.
I did
But,
put this question to
yeah.
Zoltan though, but he didn't
Yeah.
seem to play with it. He said that humanity is basically good at its core, and that will sort itself out. So he didn't seem to want to play that game. So I'm not sure. I don't agree with that actually. I do think we need a paradigm shift in politics, philosophy, ethics, morals, and the whole rigmarole. That's my idea. Zoltan wouldn't want to play with that. So yeah.
I mean, someone will definitely come up with some ideas and on regulations. And to be fair, it's better to tackle this issue sooner rather than later if we want to escape the question and moral issue of 0.0001% and everyone else living in darklands.
Yeah, it's the new. It could be the new dark age. That's the issue. Is aging a disease? Should it be classified as a disease?
I think it's more of an unfortunate biological bug, which we are used to putting up with, but we don't have to. So it is still there, and we all go through this, so we might as well be comfortable that it's happening, but it doesn't mean that we shouldn't fight it if we actually want to live longer or forever.
I know you've got to run because you've got a business meeting. You're a very busy woman doing entrepreneurial things and running around and all that. So I'll let you go. Transvision, you went to that. Tell us quickly about Transvision because that looked great. You met everybody there, right? You met Ben Goertzel. You met Peter Thiel. Did you meet Peter Thiel? Aubrey de Grey. I mean, who did you meet?
Yeah. There were many great transhumanist leaders. So I met Natasha, Max. There are many transhumanists here in London. Like David Wood, who helped organize this. That was fantastic. So the next one will be happening most probably in LA in 2020. Hi, Charlie. Hopefully we'll rock this one. Yeah, it was just amazing seeing so many people with the same ideas and the same vision, albeit with different approaches, but still on the same ground. So there was a lot of fun, especially discussing everyone's initiatives, my upcoming Sci Fi book, and just.
I want to get a copy of that.
Know everyone.
I want to get a copy of that.
That's a great idea. You'll definitely get. I mean, I see you're in London, right? The background is London.
Yeah, I'll come.
It's easy to meet up.
I'll come and meet you. No, I'll get a copy. I'll get a stack of them and I'll give them out on the show. How about that?
Yeah, that's totally fine. I mean, you already know some background and some of the plot, I guess.
Yeah, that's true. So we actually. I know you got to run. So we actually really have a lot of politics, because this is a kind of pretty big show here in Australia with like high IQ people and politicians and things they're all watching. So if you want to leave a message to Australia, to the Australian political class and, you know, health experts and the others who are all watching the show, now's your chance to speak to the, you know, the elite in Australia. Have you got a message for them?
Absolutely. And in fact, I was supposed to move to Australia 2 years ago, and decided that moisturizing London is much better for me at this stage of my life, which doesn't mean I won't be back to Sydney or Melbourne. That would be definitely a great pleasure, seeing Barrier Reef while it's still there. So yeah, it's a great pleasure to be on the channel, and I think Australia is a great country that is able to do its own thing really well, not being entangled in all of this political nonsense and geopolitics like countries like myself unfortunately have to, just purely because of the location. I think due to the economic output and the positioning, Australia is unique in its way to actually take a lead in biotechnologies and even transhumanist thinking, because life in Australia is great. Sun is all the time. Food is great. Like, there is absolutely no reason to die. So I think Australians are just a very logical pioneers of transhumanist movement. And I definitely encourage everyone to check out transpire.me, which is my transhumanist platform, and definitely contribute with your unique views on the subject, which you can do through articles or projects, which I will be reviewing and helping with the mentorship and venture capital. If there are some people with venture capital connections, that would be great to establish this link with Australia. So it would be great to work on this on the global scale.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for coming on Detonation, the Unshackled.net. Check it out. So we'll get back to you again, because this is a news show, so we do news stuff, and now we know who you are. That's really good. And we got a whole raft of more questions to come, so it's going to be great. But thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. You did a great job, and yeah, it's all good at Detonation.
Well, yeah, it was a lot of fun still. So hope to see you again soon. Maybe in London.
Maybe in London. I'll come to Las Vegas or wherever it is.
Oh, okay. Yeah, in LA. Let's meet in LA. Transvision.
Transvision, LA. All right. Kate Goes Tech.
See you there.
See you there.
See you there, guys.